Hello, friends.
Not yet.
It says live in the bottom corner.
There we go.
Hi, everyone. Happy Thursday lunchtime.
Happy Thursday. Woo woo! It's not hump day. It's a day after hump day.
Sorry, a little bit of growing pains going live in our group here, but we shall sort it out. We're coming to you live for this Thursday Lunch and Learn training. It's our first one of these, but we hope to do one every Thursday moving forward. We're very well aware that these will start out very small, but we hope that as the community we're growing continues to expand, that we'll have some more folks here to participate with us. We'd love to hear from you as we go. So if you have a certain experience or your own situation that you want to post in the comments of the live, please feel free to do so, and we will answer as we go.
Yeah, I'm putting in the comments, fire away with any questions at any time. And you know, it will be nice to get a larger audience here to do questions, but there's still going to be a lot of value in us posting this after, so people who want to watch it on the replay.
Totally. So we've got a long list of topics that we want to address in these free 30-minute trainings. Mark, I'd like to say, is a wealth of knowledge, but one of the great things he brings to his trainings is just a real passion for these topics and big energy. So he'll bring that to you here as well. But we thought we'd start today with talking about kind of your own career growth and how you can really advocate for your own growth within your organization, because I know Mark hears from people all the time who write him individually to say like, oh my gosh, I'm passionate about this leadership stuff. I'm passionate about, my own personal growth and wanting to grow within this organization, but I'm stuck. I don't know how to get started. I don't know how to talk about it. I don't know how to bring other people on board if I have a leader who maybe doesn't think this way.
Mm-hmm.
Like, what can I do? So that's what we're going to talk about today for the next 25 minutes or so. And we'll see how it goes.
Yeah, I'm excited because, that's what I've done with my career, right? Like I've owned it. Like I've owned the path and I knew probably at a young age that I wanted to run a company, because at the time I wanted to run a company so I could prove servant leadership worked and was good for business. And that was the desire behind it. But as I grew, it was more about knowing that I could build a good strategy and people development skills and sales skills to let an organization grow. But I owned it. And so I had that borderline of strategy and being adamant about taking control of my career. When I had bosses who wanted to support me, even when they were, and ones that didn't. So yeah, I'm fired up.
So let's start with what if you're part of an organization that doesn't necessarily prioritize?
Just quit. No, I'm just kidding. Sorry, go ahead.
It's not a primary focus for the organization to kind of grow their people from within. So if you're part of that kind of organization, how do you advocate for your own growth? Because I think people are mindful of optics. Like they don't want to look like they're being too pushy or that they're overconfident or that they think they can do it better than anyone else, but they also want to be able to grow. So if it's not necessarily ingrained in the company culture, how does one go about that advocacy for themselves?
Yeah, and that's a great question. And the sad part is it's not ingrained in a lot of company cultures. There are less companies than there are more companies that actually have dedicated development programs for their employees. But you can ask for it without being pushy. So here's what every leader likes, even if they don't focus on development. They love results from their team, and they love it when you do more work and help them be successful. So I always took advantage of that to say, I want to grow. You've gotten somewhere in your career that I'd like to get to. So I'm clearly not there yet. What do you think are all the things that I need to learn? Because here's what I'll sign up to. If you can tell me what those gaps are, I'm going to do all that learning on my own time. And I want to take on a little more responsibility to help you be successful. And I want to take those learning opportunities and help contribute to the business as I do my day job. And leaders love that because it takes a little off their plate. And what you're doing is you're creating an environment to prove your worth as you learn these things. The biggest frustration is, internal promotions is, well, we hired someone from the outside because they're already a director. or they're already a manager. But if you can take ownership in saying with your leader, what are all the things I need to get to that next level a year from now, 2 years from now? I want to create a checklist and I want to do the work. Leaders will buy into that because there's nothing for them to lose as long as you do your day job. And quite frankly, you're going to make them look good by giving them another promotable and make it less risky for them to put your name and support you when that interview opportunity shows up internally. So sit down, like I talk about the professional development strategy in my servant leadership training. Sit down and reverse engineer that, because that in the book and in the training looks like your boss sits you down and says, where do you want to go? What do you think you need to learn to get there? Okay, let's put some learning opportunities together. And that's when your leader owns it. When they're not doing it, reverse engineer it and just say, I want to get somewhere. What do you think I need to learn? And I'm willing to tackle all that and take it on so I can help the company be successful and be ready. But I'm not going to let my day job slip. Leaders love that.
I also like to kill them with compliments. It's like, I see how you've progressed your career. I want to emulate that, or, I want to get to the level you're at. I feel like a leader would take that as a compliment rather than any sort of competitive assumption. It's just a compliment to get there.
Yeah.
Or do you feel like there's some leaders that feel like they're being put in competition with those trying to go for their place?
Yeah, you just kind of blended to, which I'm sure anyone watching this live or watching it in the replay is going to go, yeah, but what if my boss is threatened by that, right? And so the kill them with kindness is really important to say, listen, you know what? You've done a great job here. You're very successful. I know you're going to grow. I'd love to be in a position to do what you do one day. And really make it comfortable that you're not gunning for their role. You want to learn skills that's going to make them look good so they can continue to get promoted, because that is out there, right? We've all dealt with a leader who's a hoarder. And, their only way to protect their position is to make sure their team doesn't get too much attention. So make it about them. Make it about how it's going to help them grow their career, how it's going to look on the business as you grow those skills. And that'll take that defense mechanism out there, because it's there. Yeah, if you come in, I want your job and I want to learn everything about it, and you don't have a Bob Hunter like I did, right? Because Bob wasn't threatened by me. And Bob's not the type of guy to be threatened. He's like, hey, listen, if I can make Mark stronger by giving him experiences of my role, I'll have somebody ready in case I grow or the organization grows. Bob looks good to Richard that he has a next in line.
It might not be directly in that,
not always.
Parallel funnel you're in. It could be a
lateral move.
Over.
So you want to just talk about, recognizing and respecting the person you report to, all about their feedback on what you need to do to get better so they can control that feedback, but then that you're going to do all the work. You're going to do all the work. You're going to take on all the additional learning, and with the confidence that you're not going to drop your day job. If it was a direct report, so I'll use Jen Avalar as an example, right? Jen at Fusion, she was my director of sales. She was phenomenal. One of the best leaders I was able ever to work with and be lucky to lead. Jen started to take on more of my responsibility as I was trying to get her ready for a VP role. Well, guess what that did as she nailed all those skills? It took the weight off of me. It allowed me to do other things. And so if you can position that with your leader to say, listen, I want to learn the stuff you need to do, and boy, it might free up some more valuable time for you as I learn those skills. Who's not going to buy into that other than the threatened leader?
Well, and
so you got to be careful
and
about
showed her competencies, right? If she could take on those tasks very fluidly from you, then that makes you go, oh my gosh, look, she can really do this.
One of the things Jen, when we were trying to get her to the VP level, was to work with training and development. And again, we were getting her ready before the position has even shown up and I've left the organization. One of the things she hadn't done was build a training program from scratch. Well, guess what? Within 6 months, Jen was building training programs with measurables in place, mystery shopping, metrics on the P&L to validate that the training worked. And she was better than I was at it within 6 months. It took a great amount of stress off my shoulders as a leader so I could focus on other things like the sales results, like new opportunities, new product, new market, etc. So yeah, and we're all winning. Jen's growing her career. People mistake people who wait for a long time for a promotion to get frustrated and leave, that they're mad that they didn't get the promotion. What they're mad is they're starting from the zero. They never got the opportunity to learn the skill. And most leaders, if you position it that way, they'll be open to it. Why wouldn't they be? You're taking work off their plate as you learn the skill. But again, you got to make it safe, right? So if Jen were to go and run the training and roll it out without my approval, that could make me look bad. Not that I was worried that Jen was going to look good, but heaven forbid Jen rolled it out and it got to Lee and it was something the organization didn't want to strategize. Boy, that would put Jen and I in a conflict position. But we touch base all the time. She gave me updates and then we let her run. So yeah, if you take work off the leader's plate, they're always going to be open to that development plan. It's not always, most of the time.
I'll also add in that we haven't actually talked through any of this before hopping on here together. So I'm going to fire some questions at Mark and see how he does. But one of the things I think about is like, what if your leader or your boss tells you that what you need to work on to get to the next level is like, it's less tactical stuff and more things that, you know, are maybe more challenging for you. Like, let's say they say, well, you're really not very organized. Like, you need to be more buckled down with how you track things or how you measure things, or you need to show me that with the small team you do lead that you're implementing the same strategies, things like that. Like, if it's not just go build a training program to show that you're competent and capable, but it's something that you maybe are not as strong at, how do you tackle that? Yeah,
it's so really at the end of the day, I mean, we talk about tactics, which is one piece, but it's usually about behavior, learned behavior. So you talked about the organization piece. So drill down with your leader and say, okay, well, how does that show up? Like when you look at me and you say I'm unorganized, give me some examples of what that looks like, because I don't want that. I want to fix that. And so I got it. I'm off to the races and I want to run and fix that. And your leader will then say, well, you know, your stuff's always late, or you're not prioritizing the right things. And we seem to get jobs 75% of the way there, and then I got to coax you to get it done. And your leader will eventually lead you into time management. And you may say, okay, well, you know, does the organization have anything for time management, or are you comfortable if I take an external course? Would the organization pay for that if I come back with some research? And usually you can get a time management course online for a couple $100, or you can buy a priority planner. Now I'm really aging myself. That was like 20 years ago at TELUS.
Priority planner.
It's like a leather bound with prior. Okay, I'm aging myself. But you know, you can get an online resource to solve the time management program. What you want to do is probe your leader to find out what the behavior is they want to see you change. Get specific feedback so you can go and close that learning gap. You know, that's what a leader's supposed to be doing in your professional development strategy. They're supposed to be saying, okay, here are the 3 or 4 gaps, and then here are the specific things that are showing up, and here is the development opportunity that says job shadow this person, mentor this person, go to this course, read this book. You want to pull that out of your leader to say, if you think I'm unorganized in time management, I want to fix that. Thank you. Thank you for telling me what I need to work on. How do you suggest I get a resource to fix that problem? You have to
acknowledge it, and then you have to be resourceful enough to go and find what it is, right? That will help fix the problem. Because sometimes they're not going to say to you, here's the course, go take it, because they're not thinking that way. But you have to go find. You have to go
and probe your leader for that. So Megan comments, open communication is key. Absolutely. It all starts with open communication, so you can get the leader to trust giving you the feedback that you're going to do something with it and you're going to put in the work. But then process is right behind that. Because if you don't have a process, right, a documented process to develop your career, you're going to start playing whack-a-mole. It's like, oh, I'm unorganized. Okay, well, what's the next thing? Oh, well, you know, you're not punctual. Oh, okay, punctual. Okay, oh, you don't communicate well in front of a group orally. Okay, well, I got to go, you know, do public speaking training. And all of that starts to go all over the place. And that's what stops you from growing your career. Because the leader can easily say, see, you haven't fixed that, you fixed that, you fixed that. Where if you document it in a process, and again, when a leader's running it, it should be a professional development strategy that has learning opportunities, long-term goals, short-term goals, and how to fix those issues and what the resources are. Do it yourself. Get the notes from your leader, and they say, you know, the 4 things that you really got to learn if you want to be a vice president, as an example, is you need to be a better coach. You need to learn what that's about. You need to understand how to do strategic planning. You need to understand the impact to the P&L and be able to read it and create behavior change around it. And you need to create a customer experience program to make sure we're showing up the right way for our customers to drive all those things. You document that and you say, okay, boss, what do you think? Where do I go? I mean, where do I learn about customer experience? Like, I think I can go online and research that. Would you guys be open to giving me some support? Or is there someone in the organization I can talk to that you would recommend I could learn from? And now you start to build your process, because Megan raises a good point about communication. You can't get to the process if you can't open up your boss to give you that buy-in and that feedback. The reason the process, and I could go on forever, Jody doesn't have to ask me another question now, I could talk for 13 more minutes. But the reason the process is so key is that's your proof point. As you sit down with your boss every month and say, see, I did number one and here's what I learned, and they can ask you some feedback and validate that you get it and you've done the practice and the learning opportunity, it's one more thing off your checklist. So when you do apply internally for the role, or heaven forbid, you have to leave the organization, you can demonstrate those skills. So as an example, I go back to Bob just because I just love BMO Field so much. It was so much fun. And I was in way over my head till I got the experiences as a general manager. But Bob followed that process with me. It wasn't as documented, but he was like, you got to go sit with Patty Ann. You have no idea how to book a live concert. You got to go sit with Jim till 4 a.m. and watch him put up a show. You got to go sit with Michael and figure out the food and beverage side, and Tim, and understand concessions, because you got merchandise, you did that, but this is all going to report to you, and so you got to learn those things. And we had it in a non-documented process, but here's what happened when BMO Field showed up, because at that point it was about becoming general manager of the Air Canada Centre and next in line to Bob. When BMO Field showed up, that was the mini project. Bob couldn't manage the facility the same way he was managing the Air Canada Centre. He needed a more junior general manager that he could oversee. I had done all the work, so when Bob went to Richard and Marty and positioned me...
he's really proving himself.
This was a promotion. It wasn't even an interview. Bob was able to say, Petitpaw's ready. He's going to need some experience, but here's what I've been working with him on. He gets it. He can work with Patty Ann to book his first couple shows. And that's the way it worked. Patty Ann booked with Riley for Genesis, and I was in the room, having seen it before and what a rider looks like and what a deal looks like. And then I had sat with Jim and learned that. And so Bob had created the experience for me. What I'm trying to share with that is, how do you reverse engineer that? How in your organization do you get ready for that and be prepared to leave if it doesn't show up? Because it's your career at the end of the day. I want you to stay where you're at if you're happy. But if you keep getting blocked from promotions and you're ready because you've learned the skill for the promotion, then you can look at the external market. I could have gone... Questions. Okay, I'm almost done.
Okay.
I like to talk. Last thing. If I was at MLSE and BMO Field never came along, and I was waiting behind Bob for Bob retired, just didn't retire, left MLSE a few years ago and now working on some different contracts. I still would have had all those learning opportunities to go to Ottawa and put my name in, or Montreal, or a junior arena and say, I've learned all this stuff. I'm the senior director of consumer products and I'm ready to run a building. And here's this, they'll say, well, you did consumer products. What do you know about stadium operations? What do you know about building operations? What do you know about food and beverage? I could show all that learning to get that promotion. So it's not a lost effort, but you got to just reverse engineer it and take ownership in closing those gaps. Put it in a process. Sorry, 2 more questions.
So if you've gone to your boss about it, they've agreed that there's some areas you can develop in. You've documented it. You're taking control of it to work towards it yourself. How often is it reasonable to ask your boss to check back in on your progress?
Yeah, great question. When I do it in my training for leaders to own the development of their employees, it's usually a quarterly update because you don't want to create, mini tasks that you want to check in every week. You want to create major themes and major learning opportunities, and those take times to learn. It might be 4 weeks of mentoring, an online course that takes 6 weeks, or reading a book that takes, well, for me, a long time. That's why I wrote a short one. But it might take time. And so that's why it's very important that you craft your learning opportunities as major responsibilities and learning opportunities to get to the next level.
Okay. And then my last kind of...
I'm making them short just because you're running out of questions.
My last question is around, you mentioned, sometimes you're just not going to get there. Sometimes you know that within the organization you're in, after a certain amount of time, it's evident to you that maybe you're just not going to get that promotion you're trying to go for in this organization, or that you're not a fit there. Like your values don't align, the cultures doesn't add up for you, something's off, and you realizing it's not going to happen for you there. Mm-hmm. When is it okay to make that call for yourself to start looking elsewhere?
Whew, you left that one for the last one, eh? That's the best way I can answer that question is for me. Because I think it's applicable, because I've been pretty average. I've just been good at being average, if that makes sense. Like I've been a generalist. So for the average person out there who's growing their career, the way I always looked at it is, one, do I align with the corporate values, and do I like where I'm at, even though I'm not getting promoted? Like, do I go to work and am I generally happy most of the time? And if anyone tells you you're going to be happy every day at whatever job you're at, I haven't found it yet. So there's a barometer of, am I mostly happy? I'm in a good spot. No organization is perfect. But that was always number one. And if I was learning, even though I was being passed up for promotions and I felt like I was being challenged, I'm still there and I'm still comfortable. When those 3 doors closed, I just wasn't a fit anymore. Mm-hmm. Like I wasn't comfortable with where the organization was going. I was no longer learning. I was capped. Like, I've gotten promoted. I've got 2-3 departments, but I'm not getting the 4th, or I'm not getting the promotion. And not that I'm not getting promoted. I'm not learning anything. I'm stuck. And then the last one, I was being passed over for promotions. That's when I would make my decision to look elsewhere. So that's the guidance I'd give, is if you like where you're at and you're still learning, hang in. But if that lasts too long and that third factor is a big one because you really want to grow and you're ready, then yeah, you do need to look at other opportunities if you're trying to grow your career. The one thing I tell you as you create this plan and this process is it's your interview research. And what I mean by that is the other call I get a lot is, I'm looking at changing industries, or I'm looking at changing companies and it's a promotion, or it's a brand new industry. How do I communicate to someone the value I bring that's going to be applicable where I have no experience? And that's the question I get a lot, because people look at my resume and my career and go, like, how did you go from McDonald's to retail to sports and entertainment to printing to construction and development? And by the way, you got promoted each time you switched. Mm-hmm. Like, what did that look like? So here's the key. As you're doing this development strategy and you're keeping your notes, what you want to do is, that's your interview template. And so when you're researching an organization that's in a new industry, what you want to do is find out enough about it where you can say, here's what I've learned that is applicable. It's my transferable skill set that I can bring over here that you may not have today. Mm-hmm. And use that both externally and internally. So like, on the flip side, if you're in an organization and you're interviewing for a job up, you're going from manager to director, and you've been working on this development plan, you know that HR is looking at you going, we love to promote from within. It's our goal. But boy, manager to a director might be a big jump for this person. And our lower risk on experience, we got to balance that versus the higher risk on culture, right? Because if we bring someone in from the outside with experience, but they're a jerk and they disrupt the team, that's a problem. But the internal candidate does great. They're a great manager. Everyone loves them. So we'd probably want to lean there, but can we get over this experience gap? And how long is it going to, for us to be able to prove that person was a wise decision to go to the next level? That's your development strategy. You're preparing all your answers on the basis of, I realize that going from manager to director is a bit of a jump. And I've been planning for that for the last year. Here are some of the learning opportunities that I've taken on that I think will applicable and help me hit the ground running. So you want to use that development strategy in that process, whether you're looking internally or externally. So if I kind of summarize, it's just like, make it comfortable for your boss, get their feedback so they feel involved. Make it risk-free for them by taking on additional work while doing your day job. Ask for the check-in, and it's about helping them succeed and grow the team and you being ready. Then prepare your plan and your process. Document it and be prepared to speak to it and with relatable experiences for an external company or an internal company.
Very good.
We got 4 minutes left. You want me to
the whole piece around self-reflection and like really deep diving into like, what do I feel I'm good at? What can I bring? What are my transferable skills? Those are things that, you know, people don't think about on the day to day, right? It does take some planning. It takes some time to sit and think inwards on what those things are and how you communicate them.
Yeah,
right?
I think that's kind of why, this is going to sound like a plug for my training, but it's not. The leadership training I've built for, you know, the 5 steps, the one-on-one, the professional development strategy, coaching during the game, all of it you can reverse engineer. All of it you can look at it and say, if my leader doesn't take the first step, how do I do it? And when you understand the process, like the professional development strategy document that I train is really simple. It's like, and I learned this at TELUS, where am I at today? And how do I get better at my existing role? And what are the learning opportunities? And then the next section is, where do I want to go? What are the gaps? And how do I close them? And then what's the timeline? You can own that. You don't need your boss to own that. And if you don't get promoted from within, but you know what your gaps are, then you can go chase it externally. That is how I've been able to change industries. How did I go from general manager of BMO Field to vice president of one of the biggest printing companies in Canada, of sales and marketing, of which I had no marketing background? Well, right? Like, because I could demonstrate I was learning skills and could make them applicable in that new organization, in that industry. That's the biggest advice I'd give people. You can own your career, even if you have a boss that isn't taking the first step. Get the feedback you need to find out the gaps, start closing them, put them in a process, right? A process could be friggin' on the back of a napkin if you have to. So you can rely on something when you rely on something and go back when you've got that interview opportunity internally, externally, and start to prepare to tell that story. Those are the people that always blew me away in interviews. The people internally was like, I've wanted this job for a while and here's what I've done about it. Because I know you'd sit down, Mark, and say, I don't have the experience. I don't want that to be a hurdle. Or the person coming from outside the industry going, wow, okay, you come with this transferable skill set that we don't have, and I can see how it can get you over the experience gap. And I can see you taking the learning. That's the biggest benefit. So I hope that helped everybody.
Great. Well, that's our first little lunch and learn session for you. If you're watching the replay, let us know if there's any takeaways or light bulb moments that you had. And we'll be back next Thursday with another training. What do you want to train on next week?
Oh, I'd really like to dive into one-on-ones. That's a meaty subject, but I'd like to dive into behaviors because I know a lot of people don't do them because they don't know how to. And I know a lot of people who are doing them as like update meetings, like what are you doing, what am I doing, and that's it, and where are we at the task, versus diving deep and taking it as a true coaching and development opportunity. So I'd love to dive into the meaty one next week.
Coaching through one-on-ones.
Awesome.
We'll be here next Thursday.
Take care, everybody.
Thanks for watching.